It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. And Mortimer is back on camera. A few of you asked about Mortimer's whereabouts, so I brought him back. He was just chilling over here. But I'm so glad you guys embraced my weirdness. Okay, so Vengeance Week is concluding today with feedback on the Vengeance content, and that Two Women Talking was just fun this week. Not everybody got it, but yeah. It was fun, and we're gonna stay there. The Vengeance stuff was interesting because the vast majority of people got it. A few notable outliers. All I'm going to do is present facts based on the comments that were received. Other commenters commented on the sus quality of some of the comments on Monday's video. I believe in providing the good information without, getting into the mud. You get down with a pig, you both get dirty and the pig likes it. That is not calling anyone a pig. Okay, so we'll do the help support this channel, then get into it. Okay, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Still a few more sessions away from goal this week. And Patreon, everything will go out. If it's not out by now, I'll get it out. I'm traveling on the weekend. I'm going to lovely Edmonton, Alberta, so I will do it when I get back. You're watching this, I'm at the airport. I had to leave at the butt crack of dawn today to get to the airport. So my flight is taking off right about when this video goes live. Hi from the future. Or I guess this is the past. But yes, somebody was very pro spanking on Monday's video. And one of the reasons I didn't talk about my, childhood and stuff for the longest time is people tend to make it about them and read in a lot of stuff that wasn't there and jump to a lot of conclusions. And there was a time where that was too hard for me to take. I've moved beyond that. Yay, go me. What the hell was that broken wrist? My wrists are really sore lately. I don't know why, but this is a tangent. I might have missed my meds certain nights. Maybe that's it. Stupid connective tissue. But according to the best research we have, spanking does not create accountability in children, and it doesn't correct bad behavior. Spanking, the data shows that kids who were spanked in their early years were more likely to be more defiant, show more aggressive behavior later in preschool and school, and have increased risk for mental health disorders and lower self-esteem. Research over the past 20 years has demonstrated that spanking increases aggression in young children and is ineffective in changing their undesirable behavior. Studies have also linked spanking to impaired brain development. And the theory behind that is that pain and fear can impede development because people are they get stuck. Now, why doesn't spanking to discipline work? There is more. What spanking does is creates a sense of fear in the kid. Does that improve behavior over long term? Well, it may terrify your kid into inertness. Not going to do much good for them long term. What regular spanking does is it normalizes the act of hitting, which makes the kid believe that authority figures and role models. You show them respect because they are violent. It is violence, whether you think it's useful violence or not. We have to acknowledge that spanking is violence. Aggressive behavior encourages your kids to be aggressive. There's way more of a link than this than anything the decades of research in violence and video games turned up. This is pretty firm. See also yelling at kids in a way that insults, humiliates, or shames them. Negative impact on brain development. Toxic stress impacts cognitive development. We have seen this, we have seen this, we have seen this. And what does work? And this, I'm going through this because this works well into adulthood. If you didn't get healthy behavior reinforcement as a kid, there is still hope. You can still instill these patterns as an adult with other adults. So positive and supportive relationships. Behave the way you want other people to behave. Same standards for everybody involved. Not, I'm going to hold myself to this ridiculously high standard and let everybody else get away with murder. No, same standards for everybody. Or agreements, right? Expectations, meeting expectations. Okay. Timeouts work with adults and children. If someone is really pushing your boundaries, I'm going to go, I asked you not to say that. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I love you. Bye, Mom. Right? I picked Mom just because that's a common problem. Positive reinforcement when somebody does something good helps too. It's not just about correcting someone when you think they're wrong. If all you're doing is criticizing and correcting, people aren't going to want to be around you. If you're also a person who goes, that was really great, when they're being honest about that, that's a much better balance. And I try to be very positive with people because, you know, I am in a position where I have to say, like now, like, I'm sorry, you're just wrong. And like in some ways you're dangerously wrong. And I am very slow to say dangerous, to argue danger or argue harm. But the number of men I work with who are good men, who are profoundly damaged from abusive, both emotionally and in other ways, and emotionally neglectful upbringings. I see the damage it causes. And if you're just a font of criticism, you are neglecting the more positive elements in your relationships. So that's something to look into. So set rules that are consistently enforced. If you let people get away with things sometimes and not in others, they're going to push, right? Because you're not consistent. Praise and celebrate when it's appropriate, right? Model behavior. Modeling behavior is very, very important. And then there was a lot of back and forth in the comments, both on Discord and in YouTube, about, you know, oh, just ignore the bully. Sometimes it is best to ignore it. Not nearly as often as people recommend it, but sometimes it is the right play to go, I'm not going to dignify that with a response, right? These things are more art than science. It takes some practice to see what combo of clapback and ignoring it is going to work, and we never get it 100% right. I am constantly rebalancing how much I do one or the other. And it, it varies from person to person, week to week, situation to situation. Right. The one thing that it's interesting because we teach kids, but we don't do enough with adults. And a lot of the people I work with, especially autistic people, but also people with developmental trauma, redirecting action and behavior and speech and thoughts is very, very powerful. And what that means is instead of just saying, stop doing that, give the person an alternative. We're going to deal with beating you up versus building you up on Manly Monday, because I do think some of the comments that spoke to kind of abusive domestic relationships and vengeance, some of the stuff we were dealing with on Wednesday, I think needs to be unpacked from a different angle. But yeah, don't do this. Please do this instead. Let someone know what the right answer is instead of just the wrong one, because it gets too hard and too frustrating and too hopeless if it's always just, no, that was wrong. No, that was wrong. No, that was wrong. No, that was wrong too. No, that was wrong too. And one of the things that drives me crazy more than anything is when feminist groups start saying how hard women have it and totally ignore the male equation. And then we all know the people out there, it's so horrible for men. And well, sure, women have very rigid roles they have to aspire to, but I'm so sick of hearing things like men have a hierarchy, because so do women. Women have a very strong hierarchy. That's why one of the keystone works of girl bullying is called Queen Bees and Wannabes. And I don't know when this hierarchy nonsense got into, the manosphere 2.0, but humans are a cooperative species at our core. We create structures to facilitate cooperation, not dominance. This is, one of the best courses I was ever forced to take was anthropology, because it was a required elective, and I actually learned a lot in that course, even though the professor was a very strange man who believed that incest was just a social taboo. And he taught this in class. One of the best lessons I got out of university was, just because something was taught in a university class does not mean it's true. Check that one out if it sounds weird. But there's every group has it hard in a different way. And I think it is so pointless to fight over who has it worst. And yes, in the various groups that are fighting for money, ever dwindling government resources for things, this is what they do, because they make money literally doing that. But for the rest of us, I believe in the individual, and all things about men and things about women and things about black people and things about white people and brown people and Hispanics, Latinos, whatever, and a partridge in a pear tree, or in the Bob and Doug McKenzie version, and a beer in a tree. We can see trends of which groups struggle more with certain things so that formal education and government programs and all these things that operate at scale can push that way. But those programs always leave people behind just because they are blunt instruments. And that's why I got into the work that I do, because there was this gulf of, okay, you have this issue. You're probably not the only one. So let's see if we can take that experience, apply the data we do know, solve the problem, and maybe not just solve the problem for you, but solve the problem for similar people who have similar problems because it's relatively applicable. But I try to find techniques that have the widest possible applicability. And this, men are this, women are this. The big problem with that is that 1/4 of the population is not sex typical. And any program that leaves a full quarter of people behind or stigmatizes 1/4 of the population, anything that just increases those in-group, out-group tensions is bound to fail eventually, because that out group gets more and more pissed off, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because anything exclusionary has to keep finding fresh people to exclude to maintain its internal cohesion, right? Because if you're all about, we'll do what we want, to kick you out, you'll eventually run out of people to kick out, and your out group is much bigger, and boom, now you're in trouble because now you're the minority. And if you didn't terribly care about minority rights when you had the power, you were in the in-group, well, can you really fairly expect those people you wronged to care about you? And this is the cycle that we've gotten into, which is why, I think vengeance hit a nerve for so many people, is that for years that, well, if you hit them back. If they hit you, hit them back. Well, then you hit them, and then they hit you back, and you hit them back, and all you're doing is just hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting. And that's the whole damn world. And not only boys have been raised in this thing much more obviously than girls, but girls are spanked in their own ways. We know that boys are punished more for the same type of transgression. We know black boys get it the absolute worst. Black girls get it more than white girls too. It's whatever's more visible. And this is not just from white teachers. It's across the board. We're really rough on our black boys. It just sucks. It's something to keep in mind. And you can say, oh, well, we're keeping them alive. They can't be slipping up. And okay, well, we've got 3 or 4 generations of that attitude now, and boys continue to slip up. So, maybe we should give them more self-validation training. Just saying. But more on that on Monday. But this constant back and forth, well, I had it rough, so I'm going to be rough on other people. It just makes you look like an asshole to anybody, because you're being an asshole. And you may think that's the way of the world. I don't agree. The reason I decided to talk about my very rough upbringing was because, you don't know what it's like. You're privileged. You had all these things. You had all these benefits. And no, I didn't. Because when, it doesn't matter what demographic boxes you check. If there's abuse in the home, you spend so much time afraid that you can't thrive. And I talk about it because I want people to understand I'm not asking anybody to do anything I didn't have to do. And that's the most important thing. And some people are so balls deep in their misery porn that they can't see that they are perpetuating those negative cycles that don't work, that have led to their unhappiness. And a lot of times they have to convince themselves that, oh no, mom really did love me. Dad really did love me. It wasn't, he was flawed, but he did his best. The number of people I work with who hate the phrase, they did their best, because, it's fair to go, okay, they did their best. For me, it wasn't good enough. I had to spend so much time sorting my shit out because I didn't get enough support and guidance and healthy habits at home. And there's a lot of people out there like that. That doesn't mean you can love your parents. You can still be in contact with your parents. You're allowed to think they were good parents but flawed. You're also allowed to think your parents were shitty parents. You're allowed that. Because guess what? Fighting it, when in your heart you believe it, fighting it only makes it stronger. And then you have to work through the self-esteem stuff of, well, if my parents didn't love me, what does that say about me? Well, nothing. If your parents didn't love you, it's because your parents had emotional development issues and weren't capable of, and this is one or both parents, of loving you in a way that made you feel loved. And that's the thing. So many people, to close off Vengeance Week, spend their entire lives getting back at that girl in school who rejected them, getting back at the parents that treated them badly, getting back at the people who wronged them somehow. And the problem is that the people who are encountering your behavior now, one, aren't those people, and you're taking out that vicariously through them, and they don't deserve that. That's not getting revenge. That's just being an asshole, because revenge is on the person who wronged you, not, when people start going, the feminists or women are this or men are this and all men are dogs, all women cheat, all that shit. No, that's not true. Documented evidence, not true. Be mad at the person that hurt you. Not everyone with a passing resemblance to them. This is pretty basic, but when you're so drowning in anger and fear that you can't feel the anger and fear, it's too overwhelming, you are going to behave in very bad, irrational ways. The truth is that those people that hurt you now are probably gone. It's very, very complicated when an abusive parent dies, because the impact is still there, but now they're never going to apologize. They're never going to come around. They're never going to learn from their mistakes. And you have to figure out what to do with that. And you can take it on the world, which is what the abusive parent was doing. They were angry and frightened and wounded, and they didn't deal with it properly, so they took it out on other people, including their spouse, including their kids. Or you can take the living well is the best revenge approach. One person in comments said the thing about the best revenge stories is they tend to be tragedies. If you're going for a revenge, dig 2 graves. And we can talk about, we have to be really careful about anything involving suicide on YouTube because it's an advertiser flag. Some people made some really solid comments about, yes, men tend to act out vengeance. Men also tend to use more violent or more effective, more fast acting means of suicide, like firearms, as opposed to, overdosing on pills, which is the method of choice for women. more commonly, right? Not across the board. And the only reason the numbers for women are lower is, well, you've got time to save someone with pills in a way you don't with a bullet, right? But there is this concept that living well is the best revenge. And my friend Blazin found it hilarious when I said, my beloved Stalker Chan on this week. So I'm doing it again. My beloved Stalker Chan teaches me this every time she loses her marbles when I have an achievement. Every time I get a new gig, she contacts the station, the organization, something trying to get me fired. Every single time. Because she can't handle me getting a new opportunity. Every time I have a successful crowdfund, she tries to make it like I'm some fraud, right? It's not true. She just makes this shit up. She has never said which bloody crowdfund I somehow defrauded. She's been accused of that, ironically, but she never says which one. It's just fraud, 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 fraud. She's right out of the Trump playbook. I didn't lose. They cheated. She cannot handle anything good coming my way. Every time something good happens to me, it hurts her. And she is making choices there. And so she's out there. Recently, I am at a film festival. I have so much success. I am my film. And the next couple days later, she was calling me a psycho bitch and just raging. And it's like, you're eating yourself alive. And she's convinced I'm doing it to her, but I'm not. This is all going on in her own head because she is just so consumed by hate and so unable to just walk away, like emotionally as well. Just walk away. She's making a fool out of herself because every time I take on a new thing, it's like, look, I have this stalker and I set them up. And then when she contacts them, they're like, is this her? I'm like, yep. And it's like, yeah, this is, wow. Okay. So she makes a complete fool out of herself every time she does it. And if she does manage to fool someone, she makes a fool out of them too. This is the problem with living for revenge. Whereas if you can find a way to settle the score in your head, right? Like, let yourself be angry. Let yourself feel betrayed. Let yourself feel cheated. Let yourself feel all those things. But then also let yourself feel in limited amounts the, God, I should have seen that coming. I should have known better. God, I made that mistake again. I always give people too many chances. All those self-recriminations, right? You got to let yourself feel those things so you can realize, no, you know what? There's nothing wrong with giving somebody a chance. If they behave badly, you're not expected to predict that. Now, if you want to put in boundaries going forward because it's too painful, cool. But don't blame yourself, right? Because I do think that a lot of revenge stuff is truly centered in self-blame. Which is why one guy in comments felt the need to make my father the hero of the story I told on Monday. Apparently, I am the person I am today because he wanted me to be better than him. No, that's not what happened. I was a profound disappointment to my father till the day he died. He only brought up my name when I was on television and he could brag about me, but to other people. But I never did a damn thing right in the man's eyes a day in my life. So, but some guy had to transplant his shit onto my story. And my response to him was just, I did it in the comments, was just exactly how loud is the screaming in your head when you close your eyes at night. And he responded something like, not loud enough, meaning there is screaming in his head when he closes his eyes at night, but not loud enough that I do anything but things on the internet or something like that. And I was like, find a new hobby, because this was not even a tangent to what the topic of Monday's video was. And if you truly believe that being spanked taught you accountability and respect, then acknowledge you shit the bed here. Prove me wrong. Nothing. And that, as of this recording, and that kind of proves the point that all I did was teach him shame. Because shamed people can't go, you're right, this wasn't about me, I screwed up. It would have been a big win if he just yes and that. It's like, you're right, I overstepped there. I should not have assumed that your father wanted best for you, that he wanted you to be better than him. You're right, that was a massive assumption on my part. That's all he would have had to do to prove his point. But as of this recording, and he's had ample time to respond based on his previous responses, he didn't. And I don't have to do anything. That's the thing. Revenge can make you look like a real asshole. Even if it's pointed in the right direction, if somebody really is this horrible, evil manipulator, they're going to know how to make you look bad and make them look like the victim. In the eyes of third parties. So it's better to just find a way to heal and cut the cord, close the loop, whatever metaphor you want, turn the page, pick the cheese ball metaphor of your choice, but live your best life instead of trying to ruin theirs. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K, or sign up for a Leanna Care session yourself, link in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and I don't have the thing ready again. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend.